Hey guys, hope you're well. Wanted to talk about like the current state of Tinder marketing for OnlyFans. It's been a little while since I put out my last video on like Tinder marketing, which has picked up like quite a few views by now. And as with most like marketing and acquisition channels within the OnlyFans space, they're quite like fast paced and like constantly evolving, and I get quite a lot of questions about perhaps things that I've said before that are no longer relevant, that have changed as like the marketing channel evolves. So yeah, I just thought I would cover some of the just frequently asked questions that I get on like a daily basis. The first one that I actually get is, are we able to verify Tinder models? If we have a model who applies with us and they're based in Canada or in the US, are we able to verify their profiles? Because previously we were having some issues with that. And the answer to that is yes, and the bypass that we currently use to that is not it's not some hidden hack or something. We literally just bring in like a similar looking model who is based out here. We're based in Eastern Europe. We'll get a physical person to come in and to actually take pictures, and that is how we'll get a blue check mark on the account. There are a couple of other ways that you can do it as well, such as like remote logins, but getting a girl to play around with downloading all this software and stuff, we actually just found it much more streamlined to pay to bring in like a lookalike model, essentially. The benefits of getting a blue check mark are you will see like increased activity, the accounts become like very active, and you also see a reduction in bans, but that doesn't mean to say that it stops bans altogether. It definitely doesn't. We will still have accounts getting restricted even when they've been verified with the blue check mark. Point number 2, and this is quite a funny one. I've been sent a video like 2 or 3 times recently of this guy who built a Tinder bot and automation software, and they were selling it for $200, which I thought was quite interesting. So number 1, like I don't suggest you to use like Tinder swipers and so on. Like the issue on Tinder isn't being able to swipe. It's in getting accounts to become active and getting multiple different accounts to become active. So Tinder has really invested quite a lot of time and money into detecting fake accounts. So that is like the main kind of workaround. That like the swiping itself is really very easy, and there's also no need to pay like $200 for any software. Like I'll put a link to like autoswiper.ch, which we actually use on Bumble. We don't use it on Tinder, but it supports both platforms. And you can, like personally I don't suggest to use it, but if you are going to go down that route, there's no need to pay like $200 for it. It's literally $2 per month, and it has like pretty good filtering options as well. But again, like the issue really isn't on like the swiping side of things. That is like the easiest part to fulfill. If anything, you also don't want to do like an auto swiper, because you want the human filtering of checking, does this guy look like an OnlyFans subscriber? So we actually prefer to do that process like manually as well. But not only that, like you will also just find you have you get significantly more accounts active. We're talking about doing this at scale, right? We're not talking about just running like one account. You want anywhere from like, personally we try to get about 50 Tinder accounts active for each of our models. So we're talking about operating this like scale. The difficulty isn't in swiping, it's in creating accounts that look so real that they actually become active. And you have to do like a number of different things, such as modifying the pictures. And I don't mean just in terms of changing the saturation in the pictures. We have actually built like a face editing system to make each face like completely unique. So we can use the same photos of a model, but we have to actually edit the pictures so it's not detectable the same girl is creating like multiple different accounts. On top of that as well, we have to do like a ton of stuff with like GPS modifications and various different things. And we literally do this through like physical mobile devices. So I've shown this before. I'll put another video up as well. But we are literally registering accounts using real mobile devices, because browsers simply aren't able to compete with a mobile device. So in my opinion, I don't suggest to use like Tinder swipers. I think you're just asking for trouble basically. But again, it is really like very cheap to do swiping. It's like a very low value task that can just be outsourced so easily. But that's not where the difficulty is in running Instagram. It's really in getting the accounts to come active. And regarding like why do we do so many accounts per model is another question that I get asked quite frequently. We do them to position them throughout the US. So we will try to cover like all of the major states within the US, and even sometimes we'll go as far as not covering states. We will actually sort by city, by the population size of the city. You're going to see much, much better results if you are targeting larger cities. We see like a much higher like match rate. So that will be like, we will basically work down cities by population, starting off in the US. We will also cover some of Europe, like for example, we will cover London, Liverpool, Manchester as well, maybe Brighton and Essex as well, which are some like sort of major locations within the UK, as well as some like major cities throughout Europe. Paris, Berlin are pretty good ones. And then we'll set up a couple of accounts across Canada and a few across Australia as well. So covering, I'm not sure what you want to call them, like tier 1 countries. And the reason for that is generally you have a higher chance that these guys have spare money to be able to spend on OnlyFans girls. Regarding, and then the other like most common question that I get is, what is the return on investment from Tinder? And this is, it's a funny question to ask. The return on investment is going to vary massively depending on a number of different factors, and a few, just to list off a few of them, it is going to be, how does your model look? How big is her Instagram account? Like how much social proof is on that Instagram account? How much social proof is on the OnlyFans account? How many likes does she have? How many posts does she have? How many videos does she have? Because those metrics are all publicly available. So before someone is choosing to make a subscription to an OnlyFans account, they want to know how much content am I going to get access to? And then the biggest determining factor of what type of return on investment you're going to see is based off of your upsell strategy. So in our like Telegram group today as well, I gave away like our like top performing template. I made some slight adjustments to it because I didn't want hundreds of agencies to be using like the exact same template, because we would get caught out for using exactly the same upsell strategy. But this template has been used to sell like well over $1 million on OnlyFans. And so we put that on there. And if someone is using a good upsell strategy like that has been like thoroughly tested, they're going to see a much higher return on investment. For example, that sexting script would extract about $320, I believe it is, out of a subscriber. So if you have a high converting upsell script and we just push like a couple of subscribers there that go through that upsell sequence, you're seeing like a 10x return on investment. Whereas if you're pushing to like another OnlyFans profile that hasn't got a good like upsell strategy in place, of course, it's just not even going to come close. Like you'll perhaps double your money off of like subscriptions or something, but that's not where like the real money is made. On OnlyFans, all of the money is made within the inbox in the upsell strategy. Yeah, and of course, like it's asked like comparing one e-commerce store to another. As much as people often think like one OnlyFans account is the same as the other, conversion rates vary drastically between one OnlyFans account and another. It's like you asking if we push like 1,000 visitors to one e-commerce store and then 1,000 visitors to another e-commerce store. There are so many different variables in play. What are they actually selling? They're both selling different products. What is the girl actually open to doing? How much custom requests is she willing to fulfill? What is the pricing structure? How many posts does she actually have? It's going to have a massive impact on the conversion rate. So I think people often just look over these quite important factors within, just asking for like an exact number. And it is really quite hard to give because there's going to be like so many different variables in play. The only kind of thing to say is that Tinder is going to drive much lower volumes of traffic compared to like some of the other like marketing channels such as like Instagram, TikTok and Reddit, and like definitely much lower volumes than Twitter. However, the quality is much, much higher, which is what I really love about Tinder traffic. Because on all of the other platforms, it's a bit harder to do like location targeting, but in Tinder we can literally just modify the GPS location on the mobile device, and we can position ourselves to be in New York, to be in San Francisco, to be in LA, or like wherever we want, and we're instantly putting ourselves in front of an audience of people that have money. So that makes for a much higher quality audience. But just in general as well, I do think that the traffic that comes from Tinder is just it's much lower volume compared to these other platforms, but the conversion rate is so much higher, and the average order value that we're able to extract out of a Tinder customer compared to like pretty much any other platform, even compared to other dating sites as well. For example, we do like a ton of marketing on Bumble. The conversion rate, and as well as the average order value from a Bumble subscriber, does not even come close to that of Tinder, which is why I do love Tinder as an acquisition channel for OnlyFans. But it does come with its own set of negatives, being that it is a pain in the ass to get accounts active. So all of our accounts, by the way, we're like expecting them to get restricted at some point or another. Like, we do our best to keep them, to make sure that they don't get restricted, but they're quite easy and cheap for us to set up again. So we will do 100 swipes per day, which is like the limit on a free Tinder account, and it will get banned in between 7 days to 2 weeks, but we're completely fine with that, and we just accept that it's part of the process. And the other benefit as well is when you create a new account on Tinder, they actually get like an initial boost where they'll get like a ton of matches. So it does actually make quite good sense to refresh your Tinder accounts every now and then. Perhaps some of you have seen it as well on like your personal Tinder profiles, where after you've had an account for a certain amount of time, it starts to stagnate a little bit, and you don't get the type of initial matches that you were when you first signed up for Tinder. But yeah, the negative of Tinder is that it just takes a long time to figure out. There's a lot of traps, we can say, put in by Tinder specifically to check people, to try to make sure that people aren't promoting OnlyFans or aren't trying to promote a cam website or so on. So you have to be quite careful when navigating Tinder as a platform, and you need to understand where the like detection systems are, and it's taken a lot of testing, but we've got pretty good at it. Like I said, we still have accounts banned all the time. We still have accounts as well that don't come active, but we have created thousands of Tinder accounts now. We have a pretty solid understanding of how to navigate the platform, but the effort that you need to go through to order to actually get it to work is probably like the biggest negative of Tinder as a platform. But the quality of the traffic makes it worthwhile at the end of the day. And the other question that we get is, do we use Tinder Gold? And personally, I don't. The benefit of using Tinder Gold is, number one, that you can change the location of the account, but we actually modify through GPS coordinates, so that's not an additional benefit for us. So the main benefit would be like you get the boost to appear to boost your profile to appear in like front of everyone at the very start of the Tinder matches queue, essentially. But it has like varied results. Like, we have actually had free accounts get 10,000 likes within 48 hours without doing any like Tinder boosts and so on. And we've had accounts on Gold that have only got like 1,000 matches. So I'm not sure that it's actually the best tool. The biggest benefit of Tinder Gold is going to be that you're able to double the amount of likes that you do, even more than double. But to play it safe, you can still only do about 200 swipes per day on a Tinder account. And even then it would be considered like extremely active. So you're putting the account at risk. So personally, I don't like to opt down that route. The other thing that you need to handle is like upgrading the accounts. Tinder has like detection systems for like the billing details, and we can work around that. Like, we do it for clients, but personally, I prefer to set up suicide accounts. They're cheap. They're set up very quickly. We do 100 swipes per day, and as soon as they get banned, we'll just go ahead and set up a new one and basically replace it. And I find that to be like the most efficient way of running Tinder profiles, because also if you pay for Tinder Gold and the account gets banned after 24 hours or after a couple of days, most likely you could have seen like a return on investment, but it's going to be quite tight. You can ask them for a refund, but it's just like another whole process to go through. And instead, for me, it makes much more sense to do free accounts and just literally keep remaking them. So personally, I don't use Tinder Gold, but we have got about 6 or 7 different clients at the moment who specifically request Tinder Gold, and we set that up for them. But you have to use like unique credit cards every time you purchase Gold, because Tinder actually tries to detect, are you using the same billing details on multiple accounts? And if you're caught doing so, they will literally ban all of the accounts. And I have had that happen before. Like I said, all of this information and figuring out the platform, a lot of it was learnt the hard way, we can say. Other than that, like, I also get asked a lot, like, why. I've covered this already, but I'll just go into it in a little bit more detail. People are often asking, why do we use mobile devices instead of using MultiLogin, GoLogin, device emulation software, and all these different routes? And the reason is because I've tested it, Like I've literally tested. I've been doing this for over a year now. Like I've been playing around with Tinder, like quite in detail for OnlyFans. The first thing I ever tested was MultiLogin and GoLogin because they were like the most obvious ways to go through. And you can even be quite, what I thought was quite clever, but it turned out it didn't work. You can manipulate like your webcam to make it appear like you're taking the pictures in real time, but it just does not work as efficiently as mobile devices. Like you cannot get more realistic than the system that we have in place for creating Tinder accounts. We're using genuine mobile phones, iPhones. We're using like 4G internet. We're using unique locations with like unique iClouds and Gmails and phone numbers every single time. They're completely isolated from each other. And you cannot get a more realistic scenario of this looking like a real person, which is, again, just leads back onto the point of why I don't really suggest Tinder automation, is because if it's hard enough to set this up with a real human doing it, like we literally have a team of people who are based here in Eastern Europe with me setting up these accounts, you cannot, no matter what like software is saying, you cannot emulate a more realistic environment than actually operating like a real phone with a real SIM card and all of these like real factors. So as much as you hear like these softwares saying that they like emulate human behavior, like again, I come from a very extensive like marketing automation background, like particularly on like Instagram and social media platforms, trying to mimic human behavior on all of these platforms, but it always leads back to the same answer, which is running real devices. As much as it's more expensive, like the return on investment is really there. Like we do the same on Instagram as well. It's the route that we went down in like my old agency. And at first I thought I was crazy when I thought to buy thousands of iPhones and set them all up and have real people managing and clicking them, because before that I was running everything through software. But quite simply, it's very easy to detect software and automation, and as much as on real phones we still have devices that get banned, the ban rate is a hell of a lot lower, and we're able to do a hell of a lot more activity compared to using any like sort of marketing or automation software. So my personal advice is like not to use it, but if you were going to use it, like you can even find like free plugins on like the Chrome Web Store. So there's no need to pay for like premium, not even premium, overpriced solutions basically. But as I mentioned before as well, the other thing that you're going to lose out on is like the targeting system, which is what I also love about my, like on the Instagram growth side of things. You can have a human eye. Like I absolutely love software and technology, and software and technology is great for automating repetitive tasks. But the issue is that all of these platforms actually spend huge amounts of money and resources developing very complex algorithms for detecting, are you a robot? Is this a real person performing this activity? Tinder, more than anyone, is very focused on this. Like it used to be very easy to get away with creating accounts, and now the amount of updates and changes that we've seen ourselves in the past 8 months to 1 year, it has become a lot harder to create Tinder accounts. And the reason that has happened as well is because Tinder was becoming oversaturated with OnlyFans content creators, and there was a point about four months ago where we would be getting direct messages from guys just saying, are you only here to promote your OnlyFans? And that is always a sign that a marketing channel is oversaturated. Fortunately, that has actually died down now, which I think is actually a sign that Tinder's detection systems are working pretty well. So as much as it makes the job much harder to create Tinder accounts, it also kills off the competition because it has become so much harder to get active accounts. But anyway, yeah, that is like the current state of Instagram marketing. Do I still recommend it as an acquisition channel? 100%. Like we actively use it across all of our models, and like I said, as much as it's not high traffic, the quality of the traffic is just, in my opinion, it is the best quality traffic that you can get compared to any other like social media, definitely compared to paid promotion and so on. Yeah, conversion rate is great, and generally the guys are quite happy to spend money. Yeah, I still love it as an acquisition channel despite the difficulties. It's still well worth it. Other than that, if there's any other, these are like the main questions that I get at least like a couple of times per week. But yeah, if there's any other questions about Tinder and anything else, yeah, feel free to leave a comment.